Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternities, the Expanse character analysis for Alex Kamal. This video is a part of a series of videos where I explore a character's journey from the Expanse TV show. I will be looking solely at the Expanse show and not including material from the novels. So I'll have to start with a spoiler warning for the Expanse TV show up to the end of Season 4. If you haven't seen up to this point, you may not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So Alex Kamal may be seen as somewhat as the comic relief, the one who always cracks jokes and says other lighthearted things to ease the tension. He does have the heart of a lighthearted cowboy, which I suppose is why he has a Texas accent, or Mariner Valley accent as it's referred to in the show, and he has an adventurous spirit and lives to pilot spaceships. Although he is more than just the comic relief, as he becomes the glue that holds the family of the Rocinante together, and is often instrumental in reminding the other characters of what's really important when they start to stray. So Alex originates from Mars, and like most Martians, he served in the military. He served several stints as a pilot until he was honorably discharged and plopped back into civilian life. He married and had a son with his wife, but he found that civilian life just wasn't for him, and he looked for any excuse to fly again. By his own admission, he described himself as a terrible husband and a terrible father, as his heart belonged in space. To further that goal of piloting spaceships, he took a job on the ice hauler the Canterbury for an Earth corporation which was tasked with hauling ice from Saturn to Ceres and back. Not at all a prestigious or adventurous job, but it allowed him to do what he loved, piloting a ship. However, when he was sent on a mission with the second officer James Holden, the engineer Naomi Nagata, her mechanic Amos Burton, and the medic Shed, he found himself alone, stranded on a shuttle fighting for their survival after the Canterbury was destroyed. After working with everyone to keep the shuttle functional, they are boarded and taken prisoner by the Martian warship the Dollinger. Holden and the others are convinced the Martians are responsible for destroying the Canterbury, but Alex refuses to believe it. In fact, to honor his previous service to Mars, they don't hold Alex in the prison cell with the others and instead give him fresh clothes and his own room, which only makes the others more suspicious of him. So he tries to deflect suspicion elsewhere towards Naomi, and thus they all start pointing fingers at each other. However, while Holden is being questioned in the command center, the ship comes under attack by unknown attackers and is put in danger, to which Alex's mind is unheard of for a Martian warship of this size. During the attack, a torpedo hits their room, decapitating Shed and leaving the room with a limited supply of oxygen. So Alex agrees to sedate himself to give everyone more time to survive, as he would consume less air that way. When he comes to, he finds himself in the middle of a battle, entering a smaller Martian ship that's docked on the Dollinger, and is shoved towards the pilot's seat and told to fly them out of there. He manages to do that and shoots some of their attackers for good measure. The Martian officer escorting them dies from his injuries, and Alex insists that he be honored, and the others agree. So he, Holden, Amos, Naomi now find themselves in possession of a Martian warship, which Alex will continue to insist for the rest of his days is legitimate salvage. With some help from the OPA, they are sent on a mission to investigate the destruction of the Canterbury and the bigger conspiracy it's involved in. However, they find they need to name the ship, and Alex suggests naming the ship the Screaming Firehawk, which is rejected by the others, and Holden settles on the Rocinante as the name of the ship. Later, Alex will help them to avoid Martian patrols with his knowledge of how Martian military operates by pretending to be a Black Ops team, as he finds hidden codes that would support that claim. And for good measure, he repeats the phrase "donkey balls," which he once heard a Black Ops team use, and it works, and the Martians leave them alone. During their investigation, they discover an alien substance known as the protomolecule that was discovered on a Martian research station on Phoebe, which was destroyed to cover up the acquisition of this substance by an Earth corporation known as Protogen. They trace it to Eros, where they find themselves in the middle of a deadly experiment Protogen runs with the protomolecule that kills the entire population of that asteroid, and they barely manage to escape with their lives. Later, the crew finds themselves with a sample of the protomolecule and must decide what to do with it. Alex suggests giving it to the Martians, but the others reject this idea, and instead they decide to destroy their sample by flying it into the sun. They then trace Protogen back to its base, a space station that they mount an attack on with the help of the OPA. During the attack, Alex handles himself well and manages to take down another stealth ship. However, during the battle, there are two boarding pods filled with people ready to raid the station, and one of them is destroyed by the station's defenses, and Alex blames himself for this. Even though the raid was successful and they managed to gut Protogen, Alex still blames himself for letting one of the pods get destroyed, and he continuously runs simulations to make sure it doesn't happen again. He also feels guilt over having not done more to save more people on Eros. However, Amos tells him that he's being too hard on himself. So Amos forms an odd bond with him, where he looks after him like an older brother type figure. Alex at first resents this, as he insists he can take care of himself, but eventually accepts Amos' role as protector. After Protogen is defeated, the protomolecule threat is seemingly eliminated. Fighting breaks out between Earth and Mars on Ganymede, and Alex and the Rosnate crew help in the aid of refugees from Ganymede. However, when Amos refuses to help, Alex gets on his case, but Amos responds by threatening him and telling him to leave him alone, because if he kills him, there'd be no one to fly the ship. So Alex does leave him alone, but eventually Holden and Naomi discover a connection to the attack on Ganymede and the protomolecule. So they go to Ganymede to investigate, but the Rosnate is too conspicuous to take there, so Alex takes the Rosnate and hides it around moons of Jupiter, while Holden and the others go to Ganymede to investigate. Alex uses his piloting skills to avoid the Martian and UN patrols around Ganymede, and eventually arrives to pick Holden and the others up, who have indeed discovered protomolecule on Ganymede in the form of protomolecule human hybrids that are being used in deadly experiments by the Martian military as weapons of war. Alex at first doesn't want to believe the Martians are involved in the protomolecule now, but he's forced to come to terms with it. While Naomi and Amos go off on a humanitarian mission, Alex goes with Holden to hunt down a protomolecule monster that got loose. Holden orders Alex to take the Rosnate into dangerous situations in order to hunt it down, and it's becoming apparent to him that Holden has let his fear make him obsessed with killing it. When Alex sees that the ship that Amos and Naomi are on is in danger of being destroyed by UN and Martian patrols, Alex begs Holden to call off his hunt for the monster, but Holden refuses. So Alex has to remind Holden of what is really important, and that is their family. That two members of their family are in danger, so he manages to bring Holden back by getting him to save Naomi and Amos before they're killed. Holden even credits Alex for snapping him out of it and reminding him of what's important. However, it is later learned that Naomi lied to them about destroying their sample of the protomolecule, and that she instead gave it to Fred Johnson of the OPA. They all feel betrayed by this, including Alex, who wanted to give it to the Martians, but they all agreed to destroy it. And thus their family begins to fall apart, as Naomi no longer feels part of it, and Amos now talks about going to Palace and all going their separate ways, which is complicated even more when war breaks out between Earth and Mars. However, a situation changes everything when a Martian dignitary comes under attack by the UN and sends out a cry for help, which Alex feels obligated to respond to. Naomi also wants to respond since the distress call is coming from Julie Mal's ship, which ties it to the proto-molecule conspiracy. However, Holden and Amos are done with getting involved and they vote to do nothing, but the visitor Prax breaks the tie and votes to intercede. With some brilliant piloting by Alex, they manage to outwit the UN warship and save the dignitaries. However, when they bring them on board, they discover a Martian Marine named Bobby Draper and the Undersecretary of the UN, Christian Avasarala. They are both investigating an illegal conspiracy within the UN to start this illegal war, which involves the proto-molecule hybrid technology. But Holden wants nothing to do with it. Meanwhile, Alex begins to bond with Bobby Draper as they relate to each other, as they are the only Martians on board, and Alex also makes an effort to reconcile with Naomi as he really wants the family back together, as he tells her that he doesn't agree with what she did, but he understands it, and he forgives her. He also makes an effort to reconcile with his own family back on Mars, whom he hadn't talked to since the Canterbury was destroyed. His wife wants nothing more to do with him and tells him that their marriage is over, but his son responds and tells him that he's really proud of him and wants to be like him when he grows up. Later, they discover the base where the proto-molecule hybrids are being kept, and they go to raid it. Alex warns his new friend Bobby Draper that if she sees one of those things to run the other way, but she doesn't seem to want to listen to him. As indeed, when she goes down, they discover one, and she purposely antagonizes it in order to lead it away from Holden and the others. However, Alex has bigger things to worry about when he learns that a UN Warhawk, before being defeated, launched a bunch of proto-molecule hybrids at Mars, which would decimate Mars, turning it into another Eros or worse. So Alex, desperate, insists that he go to the UN ship that's infested with the proto-molecule in order to get the launch codes to stop the pods headed towards Mars. Naomi insists on going with him, and they discover the UN admiral dying as he continues to taunt Alex as he says there's nothing he can do to stop the hybrids. And indeed, Naomi confirms that there isn't enough time to stop them all before the UN ship is destroyed, so they leave the ship to save themselves, but Naomi comes up with another plan to stop the missiles by giving the codes to Fred Johnson, who could destroy all of the missiles before they get to Mars. This time, though, Naomi asks everyone if they agree to this before doing it. Alex and the others all agree, and they manage to stop the hybrids and save Mars. Months later, the proto-molecule of remnants of Eros forms a strange giant ring on the edge of the solar system, which the UN, the Martians, and the OPA go to investigate. The Rosnate goes there as well, with a documentarian crew on board in order to pay their legal fees to fight Mars, who is trying to legally take the Rosnate back. Naomi is no longer on board, as she left to serve on the OPA ship, the Behemoth, and it's obvious that Alex misses her. Alex still keeps in touch with Bobby Draper, who is also going to the ring. And Alex doesn't mind having the documentarians on board, but Amos and Holden clearly do. But while they're there, someone blows up a UN science vessel, and there's a recording of Holden taking responsibility for doing it, and thus all the fleets around them start gunning for the Rosnate, just as the Rosnate loses all communication and weapons. Holden had been acting really strange recently, so Alex entertains the possibility that Holden actually did do it, but Holden insists his innocence. Holden then orders Alex to do a risky maneuver that takes them inside the ring. Alex at first refuses, but Amos backs Holden up and tells him to do what he says. So Alex trusts his family, and he executes the maneuver and does it, and it saves them. And they dress safely into the mysterious ring space. However, both fleets and the OPA ship go in after them, and the chase ensues. Holden eventually admits that they have to eventually slow down and let the Martians catch them, which would prove their innocence of the terrorism, but it would mean that the Martians would take the Rosnate back, and Alex is devastated at the thought of losing his ship and his crew. However, it doesn't come to that, as Holden goes off by himself in a suit to investigate the station in the middle of the ring space, and another catastrophe happens where the ships are suddenly slowed down and rendered motionless, which caused the death of many on board the UN and Martian ships. On the Rosnate, both Alex and Amos are injured during this incident, but Naomi comes on board to save them, and Alex is delighted to have her back. Eventually, Naomi wants to return to Behemoth, where many of the survivors of both fleets had gone to heal because they have spin gravity, and is also where Holden is being held. She at first tells Alex to wait behind on the Rosnate, but he refuses, saying that he just got his family back and he's not leaving them again, so she agrees and they all go. Once there, Naomi reunites with Holden, who comes up with a plan to get them out of this predicament by shutting every drive engine down in the fleet to prove to the station that they're not a threat. Problem is, the commander of the Behemoth, Ashford, thinks Holden is crazy and actively tries to stop him. So Holden sends Alex and Amos to protect Pastor Anna while she makes a broadcast to convince everyone else in the fleet to turn off their drives. It doesn't take long before they're attacked by Martian Marines trying to stop them. But Alex is shocked to learn that Bobby Draper is among them. He comes out and tries to talk her down, but Amos is against it, as he insists that he doesn't care if Bobby is his friend, that if she tries to stop them, he'll still kill her. However, Alex manages to talk Bobby down by convincing her that Holden has always been right about these things, but the other Marines attack anyway, but Bobby helps to defeat them. Eventually, the plan works and they all get out safely, and Bobby sits beside Alex on the Rosnate as they leave the ring space, and Naomi has rejoined their family. A year later, the Rosnate is sent through the ring space to investigate a planet on the other side of the ring gates that had been settled by Belters but had been found rich resources on this planet, so a Earth corporation staked a legal claim to it and considers the Belter settlers to be trespassers. Alex goes down to the planet to help Holden investigate the weird protomolecule technology there. Naomi at first goes with them, but Alex soon discovers that being down a gravity well is extremely dangerous for her because her Belter physiology, and she's not taking well to it. At her instance, he agrees to hide this fact from Holden, who would be overprotective of her. However, a situation breaks out where the security forces led by a man named Murtry try to hunt down and kill Naomi's friend, a Belter named Lucia, and Naomi strives to save her life, which puts them both in danger. Alex then reveals to Holden what he knows about Naomi, as it puts her at a grave disadvantage to Murtry. But with some help with Alex firing missiles from the Rosnate remotely, they manage to get Naomi and Lucia back to the Rosnate. Holden and Amos go back to the planet to finish their business there, but he orders Alex to take the Rosnate in orbit with Naomi, who needs to leave orbit for her health, and also Lucia in order to escape Murtry's forces. There, however, Lucia admits that the charges against her are true, and she had a part to play in the destruction of Murtry's shuttle that resulted in the death of 23 people. So when her life is put in danger, she refuses to help, saying Alex should just let her die, but Alex talks her into living, insisting that she help him with the surgery, and she does. Alex later consoles Lucia on the fact that her daughter is refusing to talk to her because of the part she played in the bombing. But Alex insists to Lucia that she not give up on her daughter the same way that he gave up on his family, and when both ships lose power and begin to fall out of orbit, Alex works with her and Naomi to save her daughter's ships and keep all the Belters alive. Mercury's ship, the Edward Israel, tries to interfere by attacking them, but they manage to overcome it, and when both ships regain power, Alex locks all his weapons on the Edward Israel and insists that they need to talk. So, eventually, Holden solves the crisis on the planet's surface and they go to return home. Alex is gratified that Lucia reunited with her husband, and they are taking her daughter to the Belt to attend university, and she's still on good terms with her mother. But more than that, Alex is gratified to have his family back on the Rosinante where they belong. So Alex Kamal is not just a wisecracking cowboy pilot, but he's often the voice of reason that keeps the crew grounded. When Holden went bonkers with obsession, it was Alex that brought him back and reminded him of what was important. When Naomi wanted to leave the family and didn't feel welcome anymore, it was Alex who made her feel welcome and reminded her that the family was important. And Alex convinced Amos they were a family when he insisted otherwise. And he also managed to convince Bobby Draper to trust in Holden, which was crucial in saving everyone's lives in the ring space. And he also helped a mother to reunite with her estranged daughter. So not only a great pilot who got them out of a lot of sticky situations, but a great person who's always able to convince people to do the right thing. So that's it for my character analysis for Alex Kamal. I'll be back every month with a new character analysis for a character from The Expanse, so be sure to check out my channel for that, as well as many more videos on The Expanse, as well as other shows like Lower Decks, Star Trek, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.